We shall begin today's session now. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Shri Paramagurubhyo Namaha, Shri Adigurubhyo Namaha, Shri Mulagurubhyo Namaha, Shri Madananda Tirtha Bhagavatpadacharya Namaha, Shri Vedavyasaya Namaha, Shri Bharati Namaha, Shri Saraswati Namaha, Shri Vayave Namaha, Shri Brahmane Namaha, Shri Mahalakshmi Namaha, Shri Narayanaya Namaha, Shri Haraye Namaha, Mokshaprada Shri Vasudevaya Namaha, Krishnaya Vasudevaya Hare Paramatmane Pranatakleshanashaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Avikaraya Shuddhaya Nityaya Paramatmane Sadaika Rupa Rupaya Vishnave Sarvajishnave Namo Hirana Garbhaya Hare Shankaraya Cha Vasudevaya Taraya Sarvastityantakarine Ekaneka Swarupaya Stula Sukshmatmane Namaha Avyakta Vikta Rupaya Vishnave Mukti Hetave Sarvastiti Vinashanam Jagatosya Jaganmayaha Mulabhuto Namastasmai Vishnave Paramatmane. नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो ग्रन्थमुदीरयेत् नारायणं सुरगुरुं जगदेकनाथं भक्तप्रियं सकललोकनमस्कृतं च त्रैगुण्यवर्जितम् अजं विभुमाद्यमीशं वन्दे भवग्नममरासुरसिद्धवन्द्यम्. So far in the previous sessions we have discussed about the concepts of Swabhava and the Panchabedas, and also the names of Mayavada, Tattvavaada, and the different Shastra Granthas that have been used by philosophers to propagate and prove their philosophies. So in today's session we'll be continuing to discuss more about that, and we'll do that till Swamiji joins us. So far, does anyone have any queries here, especially from yesterday's session? So if there are no queries, we shall move forward. So as we discussed previously, there are 5 Vedas, or 5 types of distinctions, which are known as the Panchabedas. These are not universally recognized by all other darshanas, and only Tattvavaada alone actually recognizes them to this extent and highlights their importance. But other Siddhantas do not do it to this extent. So the first Veda is Jiva Ishvara Veda, or the distinction between the living entities and God. The second one is Jiva Jiva Veda, the distinctions between different Jivas or different living entities. The third one is Jada Ishvara Veda, the distinction between the physical matter and Ishvara. The next one is Jada Jada Veda, or the distinction between different particles of physical matter. And the last one is Jiva Jada Veda. So the Jivas themselves are different from the physical matter. So as discussed yesterday, the cause for samsara is mainly the mind. The mind is the cause of samsara. It is not simply that that God has put us here, or we are here because of some other reason. In the 7th Adhyaya of the Vishnu Purana 6th Amsha, this is elaborately discussed between 2 kings called Kandikya and Keshidwaja. So the mind is the main reason for samsara, and there are 2 bijas or seeds which cause samsara. The first one is identification of anatma as atma. Anatma means that which is not the self or atma, and the second one is, the second bija is by considering what does not belong to us as belonging to us. We believe that whatever material possessions, money, or properties which we have are ours. We believe that they belong to us. So, because of this false identification, we are not truly remembering our true nature, or the fact that we don't own anything and we belong to Bhagavan, or that we totally depend on him, and we don't have that desire to only want Bhagavan at any cost, and we are not ready to fully renounce everything else. That is the main reason for samsara, as said by Sri Vishwadhiraja Tirtharu also yesterday. So because of this, it's like a prison. We are not fit to be in the spiritual world, which is why we are still here. Till we become fit to do that, until we become aparoksha jnanis, as we call it, till that time we shall remain in samsara. So there are the main method of achieving Paramatma is through something called yoga or Bhakti yoga, precisely. And this Bhakti, the practice of Bhakti, yoga literally means union with Paramatma. So to unite with Paramatma, we need to practice yoga. So this yoga is done through Bhakti. And now this Bhakti again has two components. So as we discussed in one of the initial sessions, the definition of Bhakti is Mahatmya Jnana Purvastu Sudradha Sneho Bhaktiriti Prokta Taya Muktir Nacha Anyatha. This is the definition given in the Narada Pancharatra as quoted by Sri Madhvacharya in the Mahabharata Tatparya. The strong love or attachment for Bhagavan arising due to knowledge of him, due to knowledge of his greatness. This is called Bhakti, and that alone can lead to Mukti, nothing else. So even in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself says that only through Bhakti alone he can be known. So the fact is that this Bhakti also includes two components. One is Jnana and another is Karma. So Karma means Karma Yoga, or the path called Pravritti, which means involvement. So one may think that if you see the Smarta philosophers, they will say that you need to take up sannyasa if you want moksha. You need to become a sannyasi and renounce everything, and that too, this is possible only for Brahmin men. This is not possible for anyone else. So the irony highlighted by Sri Bannanjay Govindacharya also in one of his pravachanas was that the Smartas believe every object is one and the same. There is nothing else. All the fact that we think that we are a separate identity or we are a separate living entity and different from God is an illusion according to them. They believe that actually it is only God who exists everywhere, and through Maya he imposes the notion of being multiple, or of being the living entities, being the physical matter, and because of that we falsely think that we have a separate existence, but we don't. The irony is that they believe that all are one, everyone has the same soul, everyone is one and the same. But finally, if you see Shankaracharya's Bhashya on the Bhagavad Gita's 14th Adhyaya in the beginning, he explains how only a Brahmana can get moksha, that is a sannyasi. Only one who takes up sannyasa is finally eligible to understand that he himself is Brahman. But this is not the case with any of the Vaishnava philosophies, because we acknowledge the fact that everyone is different, every soul is different, everyone has their own ways of achieving moksha. Even Brahmanas can achieve moksha, Kshatriyas can do it, Vaishyas can do it, Shudras can do it, Sannyasis can do it, Grihasthas can do it, Brahmacharis can do it. But everyone must follow their particular karma yoga. They must perform their actions and remember that the goal of every action should be to attain Bhagavan, and they should see Bhagavan in every action which they commit. So this can be perfectly executed only by the aparoksha jnanis and not by ordinary people. Though ordinary people, during the first few stages of bhakti, as one progresses in their sadhana, they can start doing this, and they can also partially achieve such a similar mentality and similar understanding while learning the shastras. So this is why jnana is necessary. So through this knowledge of spiritualism and through of the knowledge of Bhagavan and how to attain him, one can practice bhakti. So bhakti depends on both jnana and karma. So because of this, one has to perform their actions, their karma, by remembering that one should not be attached to the results, first of all, and second of all, one should remember everything being done is temporary, and finally our final goal should be to attain Bhagwan, not to get attached to what we do or the results of what we obtain from our karmas. So these are the methods through which one has to perform their sadhana all the time. So if that is done, one can reach the state of aparoksha jnana, and through that they can attain moksha. So aparoksha jnana is the end stage where one achieves also gets the sight of Paramatma in their heart, inside their Atma as their antaryami. So through that they have the ability to fully comprehend this and understand it at all times. At every fraction of a second also they'll be aware of Bhagwan's presence, and they'll be able to understand that, and they will be totally unattached from materialism. So this is what we call as aparoksha jnanitva, and this is something not very easy to achieve also. But once it is achieved, moksha is guaranteed for that person. So this is how the yoga of bhakti needs to be practiced. So along with bhakti, one needs to have jnana, and one needs to also practice karma yoga. Whatever actions they do, in whichever ashrama they are in, whatever varna they belong to, they should perform their karmas with the goal, with Paramatma as their goal. Their goal should be to attain Paramatma. So once this is attained, obviously they are eligible for moksha. So this is why the cause of samsara is said to be the avidya or ignorance, and mainly it's due to the mind. The mind has a false notion that I am this body, or I am my hands and legs. So when we think that we are this physical body, that is where the problem starts. And we think the possessions we have, any injury to this body is an injury to our soul. We think that if this once we die, we are totally destroyed. Even in the second adhyaya of the Bhagavad Gita, this is where Krishna starts his Upadesha to Arjuna by highlighting how this false notion is the main issue which everyone has. So due to this, one is in samsara, and the second issue is that one thinks that what possessions do not belong to us belong to us. So our house, our property, our money, our relationships with other people, we think that all of these are our possessions. We think that we own it entirely, and that's why we cannot get over the fact that one day we will lose them. We will not have those possessions permanently, and especially when we ourselves face death, we will no longer have them. We cannot take them with us. So this is the root of samsara. So any questions so far? So we have received a query on YouTube: how to cope up professional life with varnashrama dharma. So basically, right now it is Kali Yuga, and we cannot perfectly practice varnashrama dharma. As a matter of fact, one of the symptoms of Kali Yuga is that varnashrama dharma deteriorates, and due to this, it's not actually possible to properly follow it at all. Actually, not just varnashrama, but most of the duties and rituals, even other yajnas and many rituals, cannot be practiced for the same reason, because there are barely any opportunities to do it now. But nonetheless, whatever little we can should be done. Harikatamrita Sara, we'll deal with it sometime later because that is not very relevant to the topics which are being discussed in this session and the subsequent ones. Harikatamrita Sara is a work of Sri Jagannatha Dasaru, and those are mainly bhajans which and stutis for Bhagwan. So they do not elaborately deal with philosophy as such, though we may take this up sometime later. So anyway, coming to the query about varnashrama dharma, what we can do right now is to practice varnashrama dharma as much as possible and practice our the rituals which we are supposed to practice as per our varna, and the duties which we have, such as for dvijas learning the Vedas and practicing chanting them, at least the Vedas of one's own shaka, the texts of one's own shaka should be known, and one should always and everyone should practice the compulsory duties which are to be practiced by people of all varnas, such as Brahmacharya, Satya, Tapas, and there are so many cleanliness, honesty, arjavatva, straightforwardness. The Bhagavata Purana's 7th Skanda's 11th Adhyaya deals with all these duties elaborately. So basically, following these is mandatory for everyone, and by following whatever little we can perform our sadhana. But ultimately, the best sadhana which we can perform is the chanting of Bhagavad Nama, because in Kali Yuga that is the only one dharma which can be done perfectly, and that is why that has been prescribed as the Yuga Dharma of Kali Yuga. So everything else will not be perfectly providing the results either. But one guaranteed method is the japa of Harinama, because that is extremely easy and doesn't have any restrictions either. And even without following all the rules and regulations perfectly, we can still practice that. So this is one thing which should be done by everyone, and along with that we should try our best to follow all other duties properly. Yes, any questions?
Harishrivas Brother.
Yes, what is your query?
Yeah, so which mantra should we chant regularly?
Any nama of Bhagwan can be chanted, any of his names.
What about Hare Krishna Mahamantra?
Yeah, that's called the Shodashakshari mantra as per us. That, or there are multiple in the Puranas, and even any chanting any name of Bhagwan also, just saying the word Narayana, just saying Hari, those are also valid. But while performing japa, generally one should receive upadesha of a mantra from a guru. So usually what is given is in the Madhva Sampradaya, upadesha of Shri Krishnaya Namaha, Shri Narayanaya Namaha is given.
Okay, Brother.
While chanting the name of God, our anusandhana should be to contemplate on his form and remember him as our antaryami. On our e-library, we have made one book called the Tattvavaada Vaishnava Handbook. So there in the first section, the process of japa has been explained elaborately. So one can refer to that. There we have also given few dhyana shlokas which can be chanted and which have to be remembered to visualize the form of Shri Vishnu in our minds while chanting. And in the 7th Adhyaya of the 6th Amsha of the Vishnu Purana, there is an elaborate description of, after explaining about why Samsara takes place and how to escape from this false knowledge, there are elaborate explanations of how one can practice different rituals and perform dhyana of Paramatma, and what should be done during dhyana, and how we should visualize his form. So one can refer to that as well, where it is elaborately discussed. We shall be posting it on our website next month in March.
Ji, Brother.
So as we have a query on YouTube again, from the perspective of Advijas, again the rules for following varnashrama remains the same. One should perform the compulsory duties like Brahmacharya, Satya, Shaucha, Arjavatva. All these should be practiced, and Swadhyaya also, learning knowledge and self-study of the different granthas and especially the Shastras also. Of course, self-study doesn't literally mean that one has to come to their own conclusions and study without reading the commentaries of a guru or explanations of a guru. One should, but one should still keep learning. That's what Swadhyaya means. And there are a set of so many duties. These are common to every varna. And for the Shudras, servitude is also a must. Actually, it is a must for everyone, because Shudratva, as we discussed in our second session also, Shudratva literally means melting at another person's misery. So Shuk, which means sorrow and or misery, and Dra means melting. So one who melts at another person's misery is said to be a Shudra. So this is also a compulsory duty for everyone, but primarily those who are oriented to rendering services to others are called the Shudras, the fourth varna in society, which exists in society. That is, they are called the Shudras because they render services to others, mainly because of the quality of Shudratva. So that should be done by Shudras, and for the other varnas, their respective duties should be practiced more. So for Brahmanas, it is mainly teaching others and continuing the chain of receiving and preserving knowledge. For Kshatriyas, mainly to protect and serve, and to be administrators and to run the country and all the institutions. And for Vaishyas, it is mainly trade and commerce. But that doesn't mean that one's jobs should be restricted to these, because in ancient times many jobs were not restricted to specific varnas, but one must keep in mind that it must not violate the varna dharma which one has. For example, Brahmanas are only supposed to beg, and they are not supposed to have a proper fixed income as such, or a salary. So here itself, one can know why in today's times it's almost impossible to be a proper Brahmana for most people. And similarly for Kshatriyas, the duty is not to beg at any cost, even when in the time of distress. The only varna which doesn't have all these restrictions are the Shudras, which is why in the second Adhyaya of the Vishnu Purana, actually Shudras are praised as being sadhu, excellent, because they do not have all these restrictions, and they do not lose much even if they are in distress, or if they are troubled due to the issues of Kali Yuga. And most importantly, again, japa of Harinama is very important. That must be done by everyone. So any more questions? Yes, varna is related to jiva swabhava. So as we discussed in the second session, there are two types of varna as recognized by Sri Madhvacharya. So basically, the varna in society which we have is called aupadhika varna. That doesn't have much significance with the soul or with one's actual value. What has more significance is the Swabhava of the jiva, or the gunas it has. That is why in the Bhagavad Gita, in the Bhagavata Purana, everywhere you can, even in the Mahabharata, you can find multiple pramanas saying that the varna, which we say Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra, are primarily indicative of gunas. They indicate qualities of human beings. They are not merely some divisions in society. And it is also repeatedly stated multiple times that if a person exhibits the qualities of another varna, yasya yal lakshana proktam pumso varnabhi vyanjakam. This shloka occurs in the Bhagavata Purana 7th Skanda's 11th Adhyaya. Again, if the qualities of another varna are exhibited by a person, the person must be recognized by those qualities, not by merely his or her birth varna. So the point is that basically the varna of a person is primarily swabhavika. So every jiva has a set of gunas which determine its swabhava, and one of them is its tendency to behave more like a brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya or shudra. Now this can be different from its birth varna. So for a soul who is having the swabhava of a shudra, he cannot attain moksha if he takes birth as a brahmana or works like a brahmana, kshatriya or vaishya in society. He has to be a shudra, and he has to exhibit his true nature of serving others, because that is what his swabhava is, and what is in synchrony with his nature, with his actual what he wants from his heart. So same is the case with other varnas also. So a brahmana should be a brahmana. He should not be a shudra, kshatriya, vaishya, or vaishya, or even an avarna. Similarly, even a kshatriya should be a kshatriya. He shouldn't be a brahmana. Same is the case with a vaishya. So everyone, so in the Bhagavata Purana's 7th Skanda's 11th Adhyaya, at the end, it is stated that finally exhibiting and understanding one's qualities and living in accordance to one's Swabhavika gunas is what leads to moksha. So through that only one can practice their karma yoga properly and can also become aparoksha jnanis. So because of that, they'll be able to practice their varna dharma also properly. Otherwise, there will be no perfection in executing their duties.
Hare Srinivasa Prabhu.
Yes, what is it?
So if both types of varnas classification are different, one is based on Jiva Swabhava and one is based on societal structure, then what is the way for an individual to know their Jiva Swabhava varna?
Okay, so basically there is no way to guarantee it. That's why we follow what our Upadika Varna is usually. And even in ancient times, that's why most of the jobs were hereditary usually. Because there is no way one can guarantee that they belong to so and so Varna. But nonetheless, it is possible in if one carefully observes themselves, or if others also observe their qualities, and if they carefully observe it for long enough, they will finally at one point exhibit their true Swabhava. This is true for all their other Swabhavika gunas also. So through that one can know that they are likely to be belonging to so and so Swabhavika Varna. So at that time their Varna can change. So there are actually two perspectives among Vidwans also, among Madhvas on this matter. So some believe since we cannot determine our Swabhavika Varna, just follow your Aupadika Varna. And others say that till you find out what your Swabhava is, follow your Aupadika Varna. So even in the Chandogya Upanishad, we have the case of Satyakama Rishi, who was an illicit born son of a Shudra woman, but he became a Brahmana because his Swabhava was known to his Guru, and his Guru understood from his extreme honesty that he very much exhibited the qualities of a Brahmana, mainly Satya and Arjavatva. So even Sri Madhvacharya quotes a quotation from the Sama Samhita in his Bhashya on the same, and he explains how the Sama Samhita says that Arjavam Brahmana Lakshanam, Nirarjavam Shudra Lakshanam. So because of that, Satyakama was understood to be a Brahmana. So similarly, there are many others also, even Vatsa Rishi for that matter. And there are, so on this basis, there are cases where people's Varna have changed in the Shastras. Even in the Puranas, especially the Vishnu Purana, you can find a lot of examples of even Kshatriyas and the children of kings also becoming Brahmanas. So that is because their Swabhava was not in accordance with their Aupadika Varna. That's why their Varna changed. So if their Swabhava becomes known, then their Varna can change. But again, those are usually exceptional cases. And also another issue which we have is that the samskaras, the Vaidika samskaras, which are to be followed by Dvijas, is something which is transferred by heredity. So one has to obtain that from their parents, and this is not possible in the case of Shudras usually, unless another person takes the position of their father and does that for them. So in those exceptional cases, that can be done, and we can see that it has been done also. Any more questions?
So, as a student, what is a varna?
Varna, again, Aupadika Varna depends on the Varna of your parents. So, and those who are students, they are in the ashrama of Brahmacharya. Ashrama and Varna are two different things. Ashrama is the stage of life they are in. So the ashramas are Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. So only Brahmanas are usually entitled to accept sannyasa and go to that extent, but all others can go till the level of Vanaprastha. So those who are students are brahmacharis, and they must follow Brahmacharya. And during the ashram of Brahmacharya, the rules of Brahmacharya are more strict with totally staying out of thinking of marriage or anything or any such relationships, and being totally concentrating only on one's duties and Paramatma. So, and once one crosses Brahmacharya, they can get married to their spouse, and but after that, the practice of Brahmacharya should still continue. One should abstain from lust and any sexual desires also. So that is that is how one can truly practice sadachara, because Brahmacharya is nonetheless a compulsory duty for everyone, and for one to be a Vaishnava, that is mandatory.
So, Bhrata, till what age should we follow Brahmacharya?
Till one completes their education and is settled in life. So actually, there is one more samskara which or ritual which is done at the end of Brahmacharya, but nowadays not barely anyone does it. So that indicates that the person is has crossed the ashram of Brahmacharya and is ready to become a grihastha. So there is right now in our present society there is no fixed age as such, but till mainly Brahmacharya is that stage where one is getting educated and working on their education. So once that is done, and once they're fully responsible enough to become grihasthas, at that time they can be considered eligible to become grihasthas.
So, is talking to opposite gender is allowed in Brahmacharya?
Yes, that can be done. I mean, usually in ancient times, people would stay at gurukulas and would have less interaction with people of the opposite sex. But again, that even those who are brahmacharis can very much do it. There are actually 7 breakages of brahmacharya, and the 7 ones mainly are that is touching a member of the opposite sex inappropriately, or thinking of them inappropriately, and imagining having lustful feelings towards them, and finally actually having sexual intercourse, or actually or spending time alone in a secluded place with them, when that person is not one's parent, spouse, sibling or child. So other than those, staying with them alone, and finally actual sexual intercourse, these are the main ways that brahmacharya can break. So mostly in the for the other methods, it's with the mind. One should have that sense not to think of a member of the opposite sex lustfully. So that should always be done, and that mind control should be achieved.
So, is it a sin to perform these activities?
What exactly?
I mean, thinking
Yes,
lustfully about someone,
for
or
the Dvijas, it very much is a greater papa karma, because for them, if brahmacharya is broken, especially if they perform the last two, that is spending time alone with a member of the opposite sex who is not their direct relative, or who or actually having sexual intercourse, their brahmacharya gets broken completely, and their dvijatva is lost, and they get reduced to the status of vratya. And for those who are advijas, if they are Vaishnavas, their Vaishnavatva is also lost. And thinking in the mind also inappropriately about another person of the opposite sex is again sin. It is again breakage of brahmacharya. So one loses their Vaishnavatva also if this is broken.
okay, Bhrata.
Any more queries?
Harishinivasa, may I ask?
Sure.
Yeah. That you had said that one of the breakages of brahmacharya is staying alone with the opposite sex in a secluded space.
Yes.
Doesn't that seem a bit excessive and extreme?
No, that is how it is supposed to be. That's how society also was in the past. I mean, there's nothing extreme in it, because
No, but sometimes the unintentionally or circumstances forced you to be alone with the opposite sex. So, is your
see, what it
brahmacharya really
means is
broken?
staying alone with them at an inappropriate time and place, mainly, or stay where they're not supposed to be. Usually, that's what it refers to primarily.
Hmm. So yeah, and I had previously you had also said that Nanda Devi's brahmacharya had been broken for staying alone with Hari in a secluded space. So how did that occur?
Yeah, because she thought that that illusory Jalandhara was her husband. That's why her Pativrata was
Yes.
broken. Any more queries? So we shall continue after a couple of minutes now. So if there are no more queries, we shall continue with our session now. So the next the next concept of Tattvavaada which we need to understand is something called Swabhava, or Swabhava literally means own emotion. So as we discussed in the previous sessions briefly about this, Swabhava primarily is the quality or the nature of a person which one truly wants, or what determines how they truly want to behave in any given the chance to be in almost any situation or circumstances. So, broadly, the jivas are classified into three categories based on this: Satvika, Rajasika, and Tamasika. Satvikas are those who exhibit the quality of sattva from their heart. They really want to be sattvic people, that is, by performing non injury to other beings. They want to always be open minded, honest, and they also truly want to practice bhakti. That is what they truly desire, and they're ready to forego all other positions and opportunities for the sake of this. Rajasikas are those who are extreme materialists. They are the pure human beings, as we call them. Primarily, Satvikas are mainly the Devatas and the human beings who are like Devatas. And the Rajasikas are the human beings, those who are purely human beings and those who feel they really belong in this material world. They are attached to materialistic positions and they are extremely selfish, and they want everything for themselves, and they really want to keep enjoying here. They do not want to go to the path of spirituality, and they don't care about harming others. They don't care about the trouble they may cause to others, but they also, their main agenda is not to cause trouble to others. Then come the Tamasikas. The Tamasikas are mainly the Asuras and the Asura like human beings. So among the human beings, again, there are three categories of people: Satvika, Rajasika, and Tamasikas. So the Tamasika people are another category of people who who enjoy causing trouble to others. They enjoy killing people. They enjoy causing sorrow to other people. They do not gain happiness from their own, from being satisfied by themselves. They do not gain happiness from being from their own achievements. For them, their achievement should be to cause trouble to others. So Duryodhana is the best example for that, because he is the avatara of Kalipurusha himself, and he is the lowest among the Tamasika jivas who will reach something known as Andhantamas. So the Tamasikas will reach a destiny known as Andhantamas or Nitya Naraka, which is eternal Naraka. They will forever be in Naraka after they reach there. They will no longer come back again, or they will no longer be able to come back to Samsara, because they are extremely dangerous people who will use every single opportunity they get to cause injury to others. The Rajasika people will continue to remain in Samsara for all eternity, because they will never want to come to the path of Bhakti. They may, under the slight influence of Sattva, they may try the path of spirituality, but they won't stay there for too long. And especially they cannot attain the grace of Vishnu, because Vishnu only blesses those who are truly having bhakti, unlike other devatas. The other devatas will also give both materialistic blessings and also slight spiritual blessings depending on what the person asks for. But the Rajasikas, they will never desire any benefits on the path of spirituality, and they will only want to be having materialistic achievements, and they will only have materialistic goals and ambitions. So because of that, they will never attain moksha. The Sattvikas are the ones who will sooner or later attain moksha, because what they truly want is moksha. What they want is to stay eternally in the company of Bhagavan himself and not to be anywhere else. They don't like staying in samsara, and they feel that it's a waste staying in a place like this, where one only has constant suffering and suffering, and there is nothing really worth staying here for, rather than attaining the grace of Bhagwan and staying in his abode. So based on this, one Swabhava is determined. Now, even among the different jivas, especially the Sattvika jivas, there is again a huge hierarchy. Even starting from the Devatas, mainly Brahma and Vayu, then subsequently Bharati Devi and Saraswati Devi, and then the other Devatas like Garuda, Adishesha, and Shiva, then Parvati Devi, and then the other Devatas subsequently till human beings, till the other entities of Swargaloka, then the Nagas, the Gandharvas, and then the Manushya Gandharvas, and then finally the Satvika human beings. Then below that in this hierarchy or Taratamya are the Rajasika jivas. Then below them are the Tamasika jivas. So even among all these jivas, there are varying degrees of qualities which they exhibit. So based on that, there is a hierarchy. So the jivas which have more of sattva guna and have a greater capacity to practice bhakti are given a higher position in the Taratamya. And again, the Swabhava, what we call, is something which is eternally fixed to the soul. Shri Vishwadiraja Tirtha Swamiji will be joining us now in a couple of minutes. So anyway, as we were discussing about Swabhava, so Swabhava is basically the nature of that soul, and how the soul is and what it truly wants. And this is something which is eternally fixed to that soul and is its true nature. That's why in the second shloka of the Mahabharata, which we have included in our Vaishnava handbook, and which we also recited at the beginning of the session, it says Narayanam Suragurum Jagadekanatham Bhaktapriyam Sakala Loka Namaskritam Cha Traigunya Varjitam Ajam Vibhumadhyamisham Vande Bhavagnam Amarasura Siddhavandhyam. Bhavagna means one who removes the covering, or one who truly who removes the external influence or the prabhava and shows the swabhava of the jiva. So Shri Vishwadiraja Tirtharu has joined us now. Hare Rama Guruji.
I think the microphone was off.
Yes, Guruji, you are audible now.
I just came to hear what.
We were discussing about the concept of Swabhava and how the different jivas are categorized based on that.
Okay. Rajashri seemed to have a question.
Harish
Raised your hand.
Srinivasa. Yes.
Hare Rama. Yes.
So he talked about Taratamya. So what is Taratamya?
Taratamya. What is Taratamya? Like, you want an English translation of that word?
Yes.
For want of a better word, you could use the word gradation. A hierarchy.
Okay.
Hierarchy.
Okay.
There is a hierarchy of beings. Today's world is presuming, at least it puts on a show, that everyone is equal. Equality is on a different basis. Equality is on the basis of, say, you could say, everyone, that way everyone is conscious, so in that way everyone is equal, but not everyone is the same. Not everyone is the same, and the capabilities, the capacities of everyone are also different. So based on
Okay.
their yogyata, okay, yogyata shabd, which Rajeshri, what language do you speak?
I speak in Hindi, English both.
Okay, Hindi. Okay, in Hindi you might be familiar with the word yogyata.
Yes. Yes,
Or
Guruji.
how do you describe yogyata?
Mm, eligibility
For what?
for things you're doing. Eligibility for like the eligibility criteria and all.
Yeah, so you could be joining a job somewhere in a software firm. So then
Yes.
yogyata there would be whether that person is suitable for that job or not. So in one sense, you could also say suitability. You understand the suitability? Is that word suitable? They are looking for, to marry a girl, they are looking for a boy, or to marry a boy, they are looking for a girl. So you can say that this relationship yogya? Are they suitable? There are various aspects of suitability when it comes to marriage. The girl should not be more eligible than the boy. There will be girls who are more eligible than the boy, of course, but he won't be able to handle that. So, in the relationship of marriage, there is something called yogya and ayogya. But what is ultimate yogyata? Absolutely, is there an absolute parameter of yogyata? Yes, there is. The capabilities of bhakti, jnana, this will determine the ultimate yogyata of the jiva. The ultimate yogyata of the jiva is determined by his capability for bhakti. How much bhakti can that jiva do? What is your position? Would you claim yourself as on an equal footing with, say, Surya or Chandra or these devas?
No, Guruji.
So we definitely see in our own experience, we see that we are not on an equal footing with many acknowledged greater, wiser beings. So Taratamya is not just a philosophical concept, it is something which is a matter of dynamic reality, the reality with which we really live. So the Madhva philosophy is the, you could say, the only philosophy which philosophically everybody else lives by these principles, but they don't philosophically acknowledge that, or at least they put up a show that they don't acknowledge that philosophically. Or they have some kind of a complex setup by which they tend to not be acknowledging this fact. Madhva philosophy is the only philosophy, at least amongst the major philosophies, it's the only philosophy which openly acknowledges and which says that it is a basic tenet that if you don't accept Taratamya, they say Madhva philosophy, Madhva Tattva Shastra says that there is no way you could approach the truth. So it's quite emphatic about its stance about Taratamya. And it is not that, okay, now somebody is better than you and then you can do some kind of a sadhana and maybe become better than that person. That goes on in this world. But there is something called absolute Taratamya. There are some people who are absolutely better than you. No matter what, like no matter how much of a practice you do for even 1,000 years, you won't be able to get better than them because they are by nature better than you. It's not by practice, it's by nature. You understand? There is a natural Taratamya. Anyone has any objections to this concept? Has anyone come across any such experience that you maybe you or somebody that you know tried to get better than somebody, but then even after a whole lifetime of practice, they couldn't do that? And the other person may not even be practicing. He might be even just living a casual, very a casual life, and still he'll be much better at something that even you practiced all your life to get better than him.
Yes, Guruji.
Yeah, so those, because there is a natural Taratamya. Naturally, that person is better than you. So we have it is in our experience that we come across people who are better than us, much better than us, and there is no way that we can beat them by sadhana. So there is no point in competing with them. Sadhana is not to become better than others. Vishnu has questioned, if you see the messages, he has put a question: what is the point in practice then if you can't get better than others? Practice is not to become better than others. This is one false narrative. This is a false inspiration that the modern society has infused into people. Practice is never to become better than others. Practice is always to realize your own potential. That may be anything. When you make the purpose of practice as becoming better than others, you are either going after an unachievable goal. If that person is better than you by yogyata, you can never get better than him. Or you might be limiting your potential because you are just practicing to get better than somebody that you know, but you will stop. So when you get better than that person, you will stop, but your potential will be much greater than that, maybe. So in that case, you will be limiting your potential. So in either ways, it's you're at loss when you are practicing just to get better than others. Just to get better than others is just a pinch hit. Maybe it's just a like a pinch, but that should never ever be the purpose of practice. This goes against what the whole modern society teaches you. The education system, the entire modern society is set up on competition. Competition is a state of wretchedness. Wretchedness, you understand, it's a state of daridra. There is no competition in nature. Everyone is well provided. Competition is, you are put into an illusion of competition by people who seem to take advantage of you in a very bad way. Never accept if somebody tries to force you into a context of competition, because the truth is there is no real competition in the world. You are what you are, and whatever you are provided for. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yes, Swami.
Guruji.
Okay. Fine. Looks like the time is over. But please remember these things. These are learnings for life. These are learnings that the whole society needs to learn. People are all after competition, rat race. Practice is always to realize your own potential. It is not for competition. All of you might have heard of Karna. You know Karna from the Mahabharata.
Yes,
Yes,
Swamitra.
Guruji.
What was his curse? He was undoubtedly the best archer of that time, and he had I will tell you what is the benediction that he had, that as long as he has weapons in his hand and he is fighting, no one can overcome him. But he had a curse. Anyone knows what the curse was? By
To
Parashurama.
forget the mantra
He will forget.
When will he forget?
during critical times in the war.
It's not critical times. Parashurama exactly says you will forget, you will lose if you fight with a rate of competition. When you start competing with someone, you will forget, you will lose. How does that sound? Karna is otherwise undefeatable. If he fights just with his own potential, he's undefeatable. But if he competes with somebody, he will lose. Is that a good curse? Like how would you deal with that curse? What do you feel about that curse? What if you were cursed like that? Would it make a difference for you?
Then we should try not to compete with the person or anyone else.
But do we compete?
Yes.
So that means the Mahabharata is teaching us that practice, perfection, is not for competition. We are taught to always inspect. We are always we are always taught to verify, examine, and reaffirm what is the inspiration under which we are working. You don't become a great person by anything else. You become a great person simply by the fact of what is the inspiration under which you're working. Many people may be doing the same work, but that doesn't matter. What makes you distinguished is what is the inspiration, because what is the motivating factor for you to do that work. If you're doing that work for swartha, then there is nothing distinguishing in that. But when you do that for a higher motive, and especially when you do it by the inspiration of God, to satisfy God, to satisfy the Paramatma and Atma, Swananda Hetu, for the happiness of your own soul, not by proving yourself as better than somebody else. That doesn't give any happiness. That gives a happiness to a person who is mad, who is sick in his mind. It gives happiness only to a sick mind to see himself as better than others. That is a, that is a poison. It is a very low class food. The real high class people eat that. They don't eat that. They don't. Happiness is not coming from proving yourself as better than others. If you are at that level, you need to inspect. You need to introspect also and see if you are at that level. Happiness is not to come from competing with others. Happiness is coming from your realization of your own potential, of your own ananda. That is what is happiness. Happiness doesn't come from outside. There are many issues surrounding Taratamya. Vedanta Deshika of the Ramanuja Sampradaya, he writes that Madhvacharya is mistaken that there is Taratamya, because he says that if there is Taratamya, it will lead to envy, jealousy, and it will lead to competition. What do you say about this? So is there Taratamya only in this world, or is it there even in Mukti, in Vaikuntha? If it is there,
Uh,
yeah, please. Vishnu, you want to try to answer?
no, Samir, I was about to answer, but you already proceeded.
Please, go ahead. I'm eager to listen to your answer.
Oh, I was supposed to say that yes, there is Taratame according to what I have done.
So why shouldn't it be there? People who argue that it cannot be there, their main argument is if there is Taratamya, then there will be jealousy and competition and all this in Vaikuntha also. So Vaikuntha is supposed to be free from all this. Where is the mistake here? Are they right in saying so?
Uh, Harish Nivasa?
Hare Ram.
No, Swamiji, they're not right because all the competition, jealousy, envy comes from our own mind rather than the hierarchy itself.
Correct. So hierarchy can exist without envy. Going by the
Yes, it
principle
can exist.
that you will be envious of anybody who is better than you, then that way you will be envious of God also for having Lakshmi. So maybe even Lakshmi should sleep with you so that you will lose your envy. That is where it will go. If they don't want to acknowledge, then how will they allow the Lord? How will they allow God to be better than them? No one can be better than them. So they'll only be satisfied. They might be having a wife, but then ultimately Lakshmi will be beautiful than everyone. So as long as somebody else has a wife which is better than their wife, or somebody else has a husband better than their husband, they'll have a problem with that, because they'll not be satisfied with anything lesser than the best. So that is the principle that the modern society is teaching you. Now do you see how Madhva philosophy is the basis of a healthy society? It is not just a philosophical venture. Without without this understanding, it is not about Madhva. That you don't even have to name it as Madhva. Madhvacharya didn't want this kind of a branding and naming. There is one eternal truth, Santata Kritanta Vedanta Rasam, that is there for always in all of the universe, from all times. It is just that some people try to distort it, and Madhva came to the rescue. That's all. Anybody who is a sensible person will think like this. If a person is not thinking like this, you can conclude, you can write it on bond paper and sign it and stamp it and seal it and whatever you want, you can do that. That person is sick mentally. Forgive me if my words sound strong, but if they are not said like that, they'll not be understood. Fine. So we have passed the scheduled time.
That's
Shall
not an
we?
issue, Guruji. I mean, if there are queries, we can extend the timings.
Okay.
There's no fixed timing as such, as long as there is a discussion going on.
Mm-hmm.
And also, it's being streamed on YouTube, so those who miss it or get delayed also can watch it later.
Is it? Okay. Fine. I think, these are, it's not that there are some things, Laghuarambha, when you start a fire, you have to put small pieces of wood. If you put big logs, then the fire will be extinguished. So it's important to understand, take one thing from one class and reflect on that, not only for a week or a few days, all your life, think about that. See if your experience says that. See if that same thing is borne out by your experience also. Fine. So I will conclude here. If anybody has any other question, I take it. Message box. Is there a question in any message box? No. Okay. So if there are no queries, I would I would like to conclude here. Okay. Shri Krishna Arpanastu. Hare Rama. We'll all meet again next week. Hare Rama.
Hare Rama, Guruji.
Harish Srinivas.
Hare Rama. Hare Rama.